I can't hear you, Nard. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and start streaming this on YouTube as well simultaneously, so that way we can share the link. And then I've noticed you've been adding some videos to your page as well, so I can share that with you. So there's a few of us. I can't hear you, Nard. You're muted. No, I'm not muted. Can you hear me now? I'm going to go ahead and start streaming this on YouTube as well simultaneously.
Okay, you just tell me when to get started.
All right. So we're very happy to have Navina Nirada Prabhu joining us in San Antonio. He's actually a couple houses down. He'll be with us for about the next 8 days, right?
Yep.
We're going to try and have a few engagements. We're a little restricted right now, obviously, with COVID. But he's a very dear friend, and he's very, very knowledgeable in the Vedas, the teaching of the Vedas. He's traveled extensively over the past 40 years, teaching and learning the essence of Bhakti Yoga. And he's seen a lot, done a lot, met many different people from different backgrounds. And his expertise is distributing particularly the books, Bhagavad Gita, all these sacred texts. He's expert at sharing these books with people on the streets, with many different situations and many different ways of distributing these books. So he gives many different seminars all over the world as well to devotees. But today we're going to speak about community, teamwork, building, things like this, which are universal ideals that we can use in all walks of life. So we're very excited. Thank you so much for taking time to come and visit us and see what little project and thing we have going and helping us kind of plan our future here. So we're very pleased and grateful to have you here. And, I think a few more people will join in. So without further ado.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Bhagavan Nard, for inviting me, having me down here at San Antonio. I think it's been a while, 6 or 7 years at least, since I've been here last. And we have seen many developments here in the community. So it's always exciting to come back and visit old friends and see what they're up to. So the topic is Teamwork 101. And I think it's a very crucial topic because we can see how we're struggling on an individual, on a collective, on a national and global level of having the dichotomy of trying to fit together unity and diversity. Even though we are all humans, still, there seems to be so much struggle and strife. And we can see that on a level of family, on a level of nation, and on a global level, because we seem to lack the unity. There's diversity, but we seem to lack the unity. So in a team, the real question really is, what is the goal of the team? What are we trying to achieve? What do we have in common? Just like this morning, the three of us went out to have a walk, and a beautiful trail just close to the university. And I saw a lot of happy people out there, out and about, jogging and biking and doing what they're doing. And they felt a sense of unity, even though they're all distinct individuals, but because they're all sharing in a similar effort of trying to get close to nature and get some workout, do some sports. So there was some sort of bonding. Did you feel that, Nard? That there was some sort of bonding amongst the people out there?
Yeah.
And we had never met. We didn't know each other. Some people throwing around balls or frisbees or doing other things. But because of the similarity in purpose or the unity in purpose, there was a symbiotic relationship. So in a similar way, whatever project you're trying to pursue, if we can appreciate the oneness in purpose, then we'll actually grow together. It will bond us very strongly. One time, Srila Prabhupada, the founder of this movement, he went and he traveled someplace, and a person who was with him was kind of lamenting, oh, you're going to be gone, we're going to be separated. And Prabhupada said, you are chanting Hare Krishna, I'm chanting Hare Krishna. We're always united through the transcendental sound vibration. So like Nirada and me, we met occasionally here in San Antonio, then in India, in different places. But he's chanting Hare Krishna, I'm chanting Hare Krishna. We're connected through the sound vibration. So we have a unity of purpose. And sometimes you live with the same people under the same roof. You may even be sharing the same bed, but you feel like maybe we're not on the same page all the time. Have you ever experienced that? It can happen. So it's really important that we take time and we sit down and we ask ourselves, what is it that we have in common? What is it that actually creates that unity? Besides being in the same geographical location, having the same nationality, or even sharing the same type of interests. Hare Krishna. What is it that really unites us? So, and we all have to do that homework, because that will help us to appreciate the other individuals. And that will also help us to appreciate the individuality, the diversity. If you don't have unity, you can't appreciate diversity. Like we can see in this great country of the United States, they're less united than ever because we have not really focused on unity. And even though we have so much diversity, there's literally every interest group, every demographic is here in this great country. But because sometimes we miss out on what was the actual intent, what is the actual purpose, what is the actual goal of this country. So we cannot really appreciate, value, nor utilize the diversity, but it's working against us. So these are just some starting thoughts on the topic to get started. So fundamental principles of creating community and to build genuine friendships. Personally speaking, I've been around the world maybe 20 times, and I've seen that people are so different that they're actually all the same. Everybody would like to be appreciated and loved, and they would like to show their appreciation and their love. That is a common scenario, that is a common factor. I just heard a beautiful talk by one of my mentors, and he was narrating the story of Gopkumar, who is a coward boy from Govardhan. Today's Govardhan Puja and Govardhan Lila is the day where Krishna was holding up the Govardhan mountain on his left pinky for 7 days. So Gopkumar, who came from that village of coward boys, he went on a journey, and his journey was quite amazing. He went all throughout the universe. That was the magnitude of his journey. So once when he was in Vaikuntha, in the abode of Vishnu, he was always looking for that intimacy, because he's a coward boy and he wants to play his flute, and he wants to play with his friends, and he wants to have a very intimate and friendly relationship with the Lord, because that is his mind, and that is his heart. He can't help it. So when he was in Vaikuntha, even though the atmosphere was more formal, more official, more restrictive, Vishnu allowed him to play his flute. And he appreciated his flute playing, even though his flute playing was not up to the mark of what was otherwise happening in Vaikuntha. But because of his love, it was very congenial. And he also allowed him to fan him with a fan. So it was an interesting point that I noted. Sometimes we're very high on protocol. We're very strict with what we think we like and we don't like. You know, why is social media so big nowadays? Have you ever wondered why people like social media so much? Because they got these two buttons, like and don't like, right? I mean, I don't even know how it works because I'm not on social media. But they always say, no, like my page, or like this, or like that. So if we learn the art of appreciating others, genuinely appreciating them, valuing them for who they are, then the relationship will actually grow from there. Every relationship is based on two things. It's respect and service attitude. And that has to be mutual. It's a two-way street. It's not enough if just one party has that and the other doesn't. So how do we respect? How do we appreciate others? By seeing the good in them. Sometimes they may not be much good. Like when you see somebody who's starting out at something, they're not very good at it. Today we saw a young kid, he tried a mountain bike, and he was really not that great at it. He could hardly stay on the saddle. He had a hard time keeping it up. But the older boy who he was with was really encouraging. He was really encouraging him to the point that he got off the bike and he helped the younger boy. They were going through a ravine, and the younger boy couldn't get up the hill. So the older one got down from his bike and went down. You remember, Narad? And he picked up his bike and he helped him get the bike up back on the road. So because he had that service attitude, I could see that the younger boy was really taking a liking to this older person who was very encouraging. He was a good leader. So if we get over ourselves, and instead of seeing the differences, instead of seeing the things that we may not appreciate or like or relate to so much, if we can appreciate not just what's there, but also the potential in the other person. Like that young kid, he didn't have that much going for him. He was not really in shape. He was not really a sporty kind of a kid. Quite the contrary. But the older boy saw the potential in that kid. So instead of seeing what's lacking, to see the potential, that actually every person has the inherent potential to love and to contribute and to make a difference, because everybody wants to do that. I guarantee you, you go out on the street and you ask people, do you want to make a difference? Do you want to be a person who has impact? Do you want to see things improve? I guarantee you 99% will agree to that. But many just feel disempowered. They feel, I don't have a voice, I don't have resources, I don't have the ability, I don't have any capacity. But that's not true, because we are all part of divinity. We're all part of the same source. So if we recognize that, then we also have to recognize that we have the potential, because divinity has unlimited potential. Would you agree? I mean, that's the definition, right? Of divinity is unlimitedly powerful, unlimitedly beautiful, unlimitedly strong, unlimitedly wealthy, unlimitedly famous, and also renounced, detached. So we all have those qualities in a minute quantity, but we have that capacity. So the more we learn how to appreciate each other, and the more how we learn to acknowledge that potential and fan that spark, the more people will actually step up, and they should only have one question in their mind: how can I be part of your community? How can I be part of your thing? And that's really the interesting question. The question won't be, oh, what's your ideology? What can we argue about, or what can we disagree about? But it's more like, I like what you guys got going. Please just tell me, what does it take to become part of your group? Huh? That's really outreach. But in order to do that outreach, we have to do our homework, which means we have to do our inreach. We have to reach into our own hearts and see what is still there that's holding me back. It may be that I'm jaded, that I just feel negative about the world and everything in it, including myself, and I project that negativity on everybody. It may be that I'm still struggling with my own hypocrisy, with my own, so many shortcomings. No need to get into an analysis of all these things that are holding us down. So mutual appreciation and service attitude. Not try to see what can I get out of this person or what can I get out of this situation, but rather what can I contribute? What can I do in order to make a contribution? Have you ever noticed that when you have unrealistic expectations towards others or yourself, that is the fastest and surest way to become utterly frustrated? Have you ever had unrealistic expectations towards somebody and it didn't kind of work out so great? It's really a sure scenario for utter frustration. But if we actually see what is the underlying current, everybody can do something. Just like Gop Kumar, he was a small coward boy. He was not very sophisticated, not very educated, not very trained, but he liked to play the flute. So they said, okay, kid, you go and play the flute, and you can also fan. And he could do that. And he was very happy doing that. And people appreciated him doing that. So rather than having a preconceived notion that people should be up here or people should be over there, appreciating people for who they are and just encouraging them to do simple things. Just like one time Prabhupada in New York, he was giving a talk in 26 Second Avenue. They had a small storefront. And one person came in the door and you could call him a little compromised. He was drunk and he was not in order, as Prabhupada put it. But he walked through the entire store front, and at the end of the storefront, right next to the speaker, there's a bathroom. So he went in there and he put a few rolls of toilet paper there and some napkins, and then he again walked out of the storefront without saying anything, without interacting with anybody. And Srila Prabhupada afterwards, when the man had left, had said, just look at this person. Obviously, he is not in order from an external point of view, but he has a service attitude. He said, let me offer some contribution. Let me do some service here. And Prabhupada genuinely appreciated this man's contribution. He could have gone on and say, oh, this person's not in order. He can't come in here. Probably he didn't even take his shoes off. Probably he was not smelling too great. Probably he didn't look very sophisticated. Prabhupada didn't see all that. He saw the service attitude. So if we learn to recognize the service attitude and the service potential in individuals, then we can actually build community and we can create something very wonderful. Now is the month of Kartik, the month of Damodar, and we're trying to offer a lamp every day to Krishna. I'm sure you're all doing that. And there's that story of that mouse who always went into the temple and was eating the ghee wick of the lamps, because there's always some ghee left, even when the lamp finished burning. So he was eating those ghee wicks. And one time, the lamp caught on fire again while he was already trying to eat it. And the mouse was burning his mouth and he was jumping and jumping. And the deity, Krishna, saw, hey, this mouse, he's offering a lamp to me. And then the mouse died and he got liberation. He said, okay, you go back to Godhead because he offered a lamp to me. Even though the mouse actually had a different attitude. He was just struggling to survive. He didn't really consciously try to offer service. So sometimes a person may not be capable of doing much, but everybody can do something. You try it out. You go out and you walk in the park or you walk on the street and you just smile at people and you say, hello, Hare Krishna, have a nice day. And you'll be surprised that the world will smile back at you. So genuine friendships actually means that we have no ulterior motive. We don't think, what can I squeeze out of this? What can I profit from this relationship? I know it sounds quite contrary to our capitalistic ideology that's reigning predominantly in the world nowadays. But in Bhakti, it's really about what can I contribute? What can I offer? Rather than what can I extract? What can I get? Because when we offer service, then it is through giving that we grow. It is through service that we actually receive so much more realization, love, appreciation, support, meaning and purpose. All these wonderful qualities, they grow when we learn the art of giving. So the Sankirtan movement is a giving movement, and we are putting out ads all over San Antonio and all over Texas and all over the United States, that we're looking for a few sincere people who would like to contribute some of their talent and some of their enthusiasm. Doesn't matter what your level of qualification or disqualification might be, because we know everyone is part of divinity and everybody can make a difference. Hare Krishna, thank you for your kind attention. At this point, I would like to open it up for questions, reflections, and discussion.
I have a couple comments.
Yes, Nara, please.
First one is we're doing these sharing circles, right? So we have locals along with ourselves. We just hang out. We bring everybody together in the circle, and we say share a blessing and share an obstacle. And it's an amazing way of getting people that you don't know and ourselves just to open up and be vulnerable. So wow, just another light bulb went off about vulnerability, and teamwork. So the first point that I want to make is that when people open up like this, you're really seeing that we're walking around with so much baggage, that is so heavy, and it's coming from so many different directions in this circle. What to speak when we're at the grocery store, or when we're driving down the freeway, or even when we're doing service together. So it's like we have to really take into consideration that, we've all got certain conditioning and habits that we've picked up as well.
Yeah, thank you. Very important point. Just to interject, I'll let you finish, but
we can't take it personal.
Yeah, because
we can't take things personal all the time.
Often we're not even aware of that, of our baggage. So then I give the example. Just pause a moment. Have you ever walked down the street somewhere in the city and people walk past you, and you turned around and you looked and made sure that that person wasn't coming after you? Has that ever happened to you, or is it just me? And that's not just, that's not just when you're in New York, that's like anywhere. So, and why is that? Because we have so much fear. There's such an amount of fear that we're holding on to. Yeah, please go ahead.
So that brings me to my second point, that fear, right? That opening up, that clearing out our baggage. There's a certain vulnerability when you're working together with a team, or when you're trying to manage a project, or when you're taking instructions from another person, where you have to kind of relinquish any sort of authority you think you may have, i.e. the spiritual master, for example, which is a big one, where you're having to just let your guard down and put trust in another person's direction, or instill their trust in you. And it's a big one. This coincides with people that have been hurt, lied to, abused, especially the younger generation, seeing a lot of hypocrisy, and then ourselves having that hypocrisy. So this word vulnerability is really like triggering me right now when dealing with relationships, you know, like especially now during this time, it's like, well, what can you really do for me? And if you can't do anything for me personally, then is it really worth anything to pursue this relationship? So rather than to seek a relationship on exploitation, we're trying to actually serve one another, which is a very difficult thing to do. It's a very difficult thing to do. So I don't know, vulnerability in teamwork, what do you think? Like, what's your initial?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're in a team, you start to see the real natures that come out, you know. It's not just the surface, but you actually get close to people. And in that we start to see where things are working out and where things are not working out or should be improved. But if we have the right attitude, the right mindset, it can really help us grow, because otherwise it's really superficial. If we're just living on the surface, you know, we're just clicking our way through the galaxy and everything is photoshopped and a big layer of gloss and fluff around it, then how much substance are we actually getting? But if we're pursuing actual community building and actual friendships, we got to be ready for that vulnerability. We got to be ready that people will see some of our some of our streaks, some of our dark sides, and then we will actually become empowered to overcome them through the process of Harinam Sankirtan. As it was pointed out in the chat, when we chant together and we do this kirtan, this Sankirtan, then we actually help each other to overcome those shortcomings, those insecurities, those attachments. So I agree, vulnerability is a big issue, but it should not make us paralyzed. You know, sometimes this is paralysis by analysis, like we go deep down the rabbit hole and we think like, you know, there's just no end to this, you know. And then like the rabbit, we just put the ears over our eyes and we think, okay, let's just blank it out and say it's not there. But this process of Sankirtan is actually helping us to peel away those layers of conditioning, because we have so much false sense of identity, so much is caked on. So what happens when you peel the onion? Well, you start crying a little bit, right? Did you ever peel onions? And you start crying a little bit. So that's what's happening. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So we just got to keep on moving forward and pursue the truth, pursue the actual goal and purpose.
Second comment. Sorry to
go right ahead. That's what we're here
and
for.
I'm hoping each person in this little chat can kind of just share something, some realization or reflection over the conversation that we're having. Second one is, you mentioned unrealistic expectations from people and getting frustrated. This happens to me significantly, easily more with people that I'm the closest with. And due to that attachment, friends, yeah, okay, new people, maybe family. The closer that I'm deeply rooted into that bodily designation of my mother, my father, my wife, my brother, my sister, whatever it may be, it seems like those unrealistic expectations become easier to get triggered by, or there's not as much tolerance or patience because of my familiarity with the person. So how do we have as much patience for those people that are extremely close to us as we do with somebody who just may be in and out the door, or somebody we met once or twice, where it's like, okay, no problem. It's not like I'll probably ever see you again, so it's cool. You can go ahead and, take my food or what it is. So how do we deal with those situations where it's so rapid because you're so close to the person, and it's like, wow, did I just say that to the person that I love the most or that I care about the most?
Yeah, it's true. Thank you for your honesty. There's the saying that familiarity breeds contempt. You know, if we're too familiar, then it can become contemptuous, which means we take them for granted. We may kind of disrespect them. on different levels. So that's why it's important that we pause and we actually see everybody. We remind ourselves of the unity, that we're all part of divinity. Every single person, even whatever their background, whatever their deficiency or their problem might be, they're all part of the same divinity. And as such, they're family, you know, like they say, la familia. And if you're family, you're not like down on your uncle or on your little brother or on your sister just because they do certain stuff that drives you crazy. Of course it drives you crazy because it drives you nuts. But at the same time, es familia, it's your family. So what are you going to do? Look for a different family? That's just who we got. And in a similar way, they'll think the same thing about us. So one time, one leader in a certain temple, he was the president, he wrote a letter to Prabhupada, and he said, there's this one devotee in my temple, and he drives me crazy. And he gave a long list of all the things that that person is doing that was wrong. And so he was just thinking, how can I get rid of this person? And so he wrote this letter to Prabhupada, kind of venting, sharing his grief, and at the same time trying to get a confirmation so that he could actually send him off. But the response by Prabhupada was very, very demonstrative for us. Prabhupada wrote to him and he said that you should tolerate this person in the same way as I am tolerating you. So, in other words, that without tolerance, it's a complete breakdown in relationships if we don't have tolerance. And where do we get tolerance? We get tolerance by really deeply connecting in our spiritual practice. When we realize how tolerant is Mother Earth, we're all running around and trampling, you know, on her every day. We're all doing so much, creating so much noise and tension and disturbance for her. So in a similar way, Krishna is tolerating us. Others are tolerating us. So why I should not learn how to be a little bit tolerant? We can see that nowadays people are very thin-skinned, very thin-skinned. And it's amazing how at a drop of a hat, people just cut themselves off. Have you ever noticed how little it takes for somebody to unfriend you or to block your number or to send you some hate mail? People get married, they have children, and you know, if something goes wrong or something is not to the liking, they just walk out. They just cut the relationship. It's unbelievable. Why? No tolerance, no appreciation of unity, of what we actually have. And so it's important to be mindful of that.
Thank you. Look, we have a comment here from Shashi. He says, but thing is if we get frustrated on new people, they might not talk again, or it might take time. Everyone's mindset is different. We need to respect each other's feelings. This is my thought. Good point.
Thank you, Shashi. Very good point. Yes. And not just new people, but also old people. Because everybody has their own viewpoint and everybody has their own opinion. And it's all good, as they say in California, means people have a great need to be heard and to be validated. Have you ever noticed? If we get more in tune with hearing people and validating them, not just on a superficial level, but on a deeper level, then people want to be acknowledged. Then you actually have a good chance of building a team, of building a community. So to get together regularly and to share one's mind and one's aspirations and also one's struggles, and to remind and fortify and strengthen each other and help ourselves to pursue the highest goal that we're all looking forward to achieve, that is of essential magnitude. Huh? Otherwise, you lose track of what's the bigger picture, you know, and it can become a little insecure, a little stifling. Okay, thank you, Nard. Any other persons who'd like to? Yes, Andrea, I've been waiting to participate in community building. Sometimes I overthink what I'm able to contribute. That's true. Yeah, again, paralysis by too much analysis. Sometimes it's easy to get people to do a lot of brainstorming, but it's hard to find people who want to wash the pots. Everybody wants to give you a big piece of their mind, but very few people want to pick up a brush or a broom, you know, and do something practical. One time in Vrindavan, one devotee was always chanting beautiful prayers when Prabhupada was entering or exiting the temple. At one point, Prabhupada stopped and looked at him and said, "Why don't you go and do something practical?" So we have two more questions here. One is, how can we develop tolerance? And is there a limit to tolerance? Is there a way to quickly and painlessly build tolerance, especially to those who may be harsh towards us? So tolerance is not just a pill that you can take like a supplement, you know, and you just eat it. You want the shortcut to tolerance? I can guarantee you. You go on Sankirtan and you go out and chant in public and distribute books, you will develop tolerance. It comes with the package. I guarantee you, money back from this seminar if it doesn't work. Just get out there. Tolerance will grow on you. You're forced to develop tolerance. Is there a limit to tolerance? Yes, of course. Tolerance doesn't mean that you allow yourself to be abused, that you allow yourselves to be trampled upon. No. Tolerance means I know how to keep my own false ego in check and to act in such a way that I can benefit the other person, that I can help them come closer to Krishna. But if they are offensive, aggressive, derogatory, then you don't have to deal with them. So quickly and painlessly. Well, quickly and painlessly, if I understand that I'm actually small, I'm actually a small guy, even though I'm 6'3" and I have a big nose and I speak a few languages, but actually I'm a small living entity. There's 8 billion humans and there's probably more mosquitoes in the Houston zip code than there is humans on the planet, you know? So we should not take ourselves too seriously. We should not be self-absorbed. If we develop a service attitude, it actually becomes much easier to develop patience and tolerance. Patience and tolerance, yes, they are similar. They are actually, you can dissect it and analyze it, but they're pretty much in the same category. Revelation, it seems as though with tolerance comes knowing and accepting yourself and reminding yourself to pause. Yes. Take time off, take time to meditate, take time to pray, take time to just be. And that's why it's important that we go into nature and we connect with Mother Nature. We go and walk also with friends and we just walk and talk. We just share our hearts. It's not always that everything has to be productive, you know? The big thing is that you just learn how to be unproductive, not do anything. Just be. Don't try to be somebody. Just be yourself. And then naturally, the Lord in the heart, Krishna, the inner voice will guide you and will give you so much inspiration and strength and so many good ideas. Have you ever noticed that when the noise in the head quiets down, that there is much more good stuff coming up from inside of you? Have you ever noticed that, how that's happening? If you learn how to quiet down the mind. So to have a sense of self And self-acceptance is a key part of the bhakti practice. That's why we study these books, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So we not only philosophically understand, but we actually get a practical realization. What does it mean to be the servant of the servant? What does it mean to be a spirit soul? And I'm not a ... You know, whatever, you can fill in the blank, whatever it is that you identify yourself with. Like if you'd give your resume, what are all the designations that you would flaunt, that you would put out there? Have you ever read someone's resume or your own and then laughed about it? Because actually, it's all pretty meaningless. It's actually got not much to do with who we actually are. We're a spirit soul. We're eternal part and parcel of Krishna. We're full of knowledge, full of bliss. We're children of eternity. So don't sell yourself short just because somebody is more comfortable in putting a label on you and giving you a certain designation. Anybody else likes to speak? Please unmute yourself. I know it's easy to just use the chat, but it's also a good opportunity to learn to just, I know public speaking and death are the two greatest fears in this world. But since we're a small group here, anyone? Tolerance, yeah, you have to tolerate yourself. You know, I have to live with myself for the rest of eternity. That's a pretty scary concept. Of course, that doesn't mean that I just say, hey, I'm okay and everything's fine. But it also means that I recognize that there's some room for improvement. And I make a conscious, a persistent and deliberate effort to improve my game, to improve myself. Because I know I can do better. And I want to do better. And I want to serve better. And that's why I'm dependent on friendships, because a friend is a person who tells you the things that you don't want to hear, but you got to hear him out because he's your friend. You can't refuse him. So that's a real friend. Somebody who just comes over and eats your birthday cake may or may not be your friend. Somebody who just sends you likes and, you know, a couple of quirky videos may or may not be your friend. But somebody who actually gives you an honest appraisal and some input on how you can improve yourself, that's actually a friend. That's actually somebody who cares about you, because they're ready to sacrifice some of that fluff. They're ready to even at the risk of being misunderstood or not being appreciated that much, they're ready to help us. That's a real friend. Not people who cheer you on and push you over the cliff. You get what I'm trying to get at? You know? Because it's so easy to just get into this mood. But don't be too hard on yourself, you know? At the end of the day, of course, be you, but be your better self, which means don't hide behind your facade. So the fastest way how to take the mask off is to engage in Harinam Sankirtan. Because when we chant Hare Krishna and we give people books and prasadam, we actually learn how to let go of our preconceived notions of who we are. Like the other day, a couple of days ago, I was in Houston and we were in a park or a parking lot next to a park. And there was a lady, middle-aged lady, affluent. She came in a big car, in a big Audi. And I approached her and I started talking to her and I saw she had a bit, you know, she was emotional and she had a bit, you know, teary eyes. And she said, I just came here to cry. I just want to cry. Things are so bad, you cannot imagine. I just want to cry. That's all I want to do. And I said, cut it out, girl. Get over it, right? No. I didn't talk to her in German. I told her it's okay. It's all right. You can cry. It's fine. It's perfectly all right. And she said, things are so bad. And I come here and I just want to cry. And now I meet you. And then she kind of snapped out of it, you know, just because I was ready to accept her and to appreciate what she was about to tell me. And she took 4 books, she gave a good donation, and she was actually very cheerful at the end, because she saw that even though she was in a bad spot, she was hurting, she was desperate, but her prayer, her cry, her grief was answered by Krishna. And she could realize that. So everyone's looking for the same thing. So don't be too hard on yourself when you realize that there is some room for improvement. To go from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence is a little painful progression, but it is necessary. But with good association and encouragement, and especially if you have a team, a loving community who supports you, it makes it so much more easier to grow, because everything just becomes like play. That's why Jesus said, just be like the children. Have you ever seen children? It's a rhetorical question. For them, it's all about play. All they do is play all day long, right? That's what kids do. They just play. So don't be too serious. Like Bhagavan and me were talking today about all different visions and ideas and strategies and projects. And he was saying how I just got to do what I got to do, what I can do, and not like hypothesize and dream about so many ifs, buts, and whens, because I got to be me. Huh? You know that song, Jerry Lewis? I gotta be me. You can look it up. You can watch it later.
It'll be our outro.
Yeah. Some devotees can fall into social precariousness, since most people like harmful habits. How can we know how to transcend this type of conditioning? Well, the first step is to actually become aware of it, because we may think, no, it's perfectly all right, you know? It's perfectly all right that I'm on my phone 20 hours a day, or it's perfectly all right that I live on the internet, or it's perfectly all right, you know, that I do this or I do that. So the first thing is awareness, and recognize that maybe something is not too great. Also, if I'm in a community and I have friends, they will notice and they will tell me, hey, you know, I see you're sending messages out at 11:30 at night. Maybe you go to sleep a little earlier, you know, give yourself a break. Don't stress too much. Or if our tone of voice or our presentation is not really agreeable, they'll pick up on that and they'll let us know. So if you have harmful habits, first of all, become aware of it, and then seek help, seek input. Some things need professional help, but most of the things can easily be overcome by increasing the positive. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to get rid of a bad habit? Have you noticed? Like for me, I'm a tall and a German-speaking fellow, so my mind is very fast, and I can speak a lot, as you may have noticed, but sometimes you just need to listen. So instead of working really hard to keep my mouth shut, I have tried to work more on my listening skills, and that has helped me to keep my mouth shut. Anybody would like to contribute something on this, what Talia was speaking about here? Narad or anyone else? Thanks for your great audience participation. Work with me, people. This is our little workshop here. Anybody
Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
I liked how you had mentioned that our society in general is like a capitalist society everywhere, and this is kind of where we're residing, how we're, living in the world, and that's the normal mindset for most people. How can I get something out of this? And unfortunately, I don't think that we can fix the entire society, but I think that the points that you were making about fixing ourselves and focusing on that is the best way to kind of be on the right track and to affect other people.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. And that's a secret for relationships. If you always give more than you take, you try to always give more. Of course, in any relationships, there is give and take. It's natural, even if you're not in business together, even if you're just friends or family or in a community, there is always a give and take of energy, of attention, of love, of affection, of service. So if I'm mindful to always make it a point to try to give more than take, that is one very sure way of actually keeping, nourishing and keeping that relationship going, so that the other person doesn't think like, hey, this person is just out to exploit me. This person is just trying to suck my energy, but I'm not really getting anything from this person. Something else that you had in mind when you made your point?
No, thank you so much. I got a lot out of the class. I appreciate it.
Anyone else would like to share something or?
Hare Krishna. I was just gonna say something about Talia's point, talking about transcending like maybe other people's harmful habits, even things that don't seem so harmful, and tolerance. Whenever we come across somebody who we feel like we have to tolerate, we have like something in our brain says like that's not right, or we're judging them or something. Also, I think a good tool in order to build that tolerance even more is probably to flip it around on yourself and think, why do I feel like I have to tolerate this? Like, I probably, speaking about me personally, like I definitely have so many flaws, and guaranteed like whatever I'm tolerating from them is probably within myself also. And so if I feel like it's important to be mindful, to maybe be like firm and be like kind of like a leader in your actions and your behaviors, and even like with your thoughts and how you are seeing people, and just turning it around on yourself. So when you feel that like, oh, I have to tolerate this, like I don't like this, but I have to tolerate it, turning it around and being like, I probably have the same like flaw, maybe to a lesser degree, or maybe even like a more subtle, like larger, but to flip it around is very important also. Makes it easy to have that tolerance too. Maybe, I don't know.
Thank you. Very beautiful. Thank you. Very good points. Absolutely agree. Yeah, oftentimes, I can only see other people's defects because I have them myself. Otherwise, why would I be aware of them, Or why do they rub me so much the wrong way? Why do I get so ticked off about all this stuff? Because it really looks and smells and sounds familiar, isn't it? Isn't it that that reason why we get so upset about it? That's why it's so hard to live in family or community or relationship, because people are mirroring our own shortcomings and our own defects, our own insecurities. You know how hard it is when you see yourself in your parents or in your siblings or in your children, and you can't just turn your back on them. Some people try, but so yeah, it's a good practice. Thank you for bringing that up, Jenny, that we flip it around and we see what's the takeaway here? What can I learn from this? Thank you. Other points?
I was thinking about who better to show us the example of tolerance, even though it's Krishna, than, you know, God through his pastime of Govardhan Leela, which is today, lifting the mountain for 7 days for his people, giving us shelter from any of the rains and the storms and the thunder that were casted down. And he's just sitting there with a smirk on his face, giving us this example of tolerance and shelter, and all the inhabitants and the devotees are being protected, and they're glorifying the Supreme. So it's like the only way we can really become truly tolerant towards a situation, external, internal, with devotees, without devotees, is by relying on Krishna to give us that shelter, relying on that divine inspiration from within, as you mentioned, to kind of see things equally and with a cool head. And that can become very easily forgotten, just because it's kind of pleasing to get frustrated. It's kind of pleasing to lash out. It's kind of pleasing to go against the grain and to be rebellious. But we have to kind of learn how to become disgusted with that mindset of enjoying the material nature through my mundane emotions, you know, in one sense. It's kind of a very, very subtle way of acknowledging that we're not in control a lot of the time, and we have to just run right under that mountain and allow, you know, Krishna to give us that shelter. Otherwise we become drenched and soaked in misery, which is a second by second thing. It's weird, like as you said, you know, we were on this walk, but at any time something can happen, right? Like you can get ran over by a bike, some weird crazy loony guy can pop out of a bush and scream at you. It's like hair trigger alert, you know. But at the same time we have to realize that Krishna's doing this, he's in control, and we shouldn't, as you said, overreact or overanalyze things. But it's like we have to constantly be in that mode of just accepting what's happening as a reasoning for growth, reflection, and tolerance, practicing tolerance, right? I mean, we're in the material world. Sorry, I don't mean to ramble. It's just like I'm trying to tie it in here too with Govardhan Puja a little bit.
I appreciate all that, Bhagavan. These are beautiful comments and realizations. Thank you so much. On that note, like Krishna's service attitude of just holding up that mountain for 7 days, you know, he could just have lashed out at Indra, you know, he could have just finished him off, or you know, but he just took it as a service opportunity, and he turned it into something really beautiful. And also the innocence and the playfulness of all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, who were not freaked out, not stressed out, not like, but they just took shelter of Krishna. And that doesn't mean, you know, we shouldn't pay our utility bills, or we should just, you know, drop out and not show up at our job. But it means that we actually realize who our ultimate shelter is, and who the person is who's got us covered and who's looking out for us. And to wholeheartedly take shelter, that childlike innocence of really depending on Krishna instead of depending on my own mental construct of what I think is going to save, you know, my little world, because that's just not going to work out. It will always come crashing down. So today is a beautiful day, Govardhan Puja. Please read the chapter in the Bhagavatam or in Krishna book, Krishna holding up Govardhan, and have a little festival wherever you are. You can offer candles. You can offer some bhoga, something that you prepared with love for Krishna, and just have a heart-to-heart with Krishna. And Krishna is our dearest friend. He appreciates and accepts us for who we are with all our defects. And he is responsive. Krishna is very responsive. I was just in Alachua. I mean, before here I was in Houston and Atlanta, and before that in Atlanta and Gainesville. And as I was walking around a utility center, I go on a walk every day wherever I am, because you got to stay alive. That's the number one rule of the game. You got to stay alive. And I realized one day that I lost my counter beads, the counter beads, that are in your bead bag. It was missing. And I was like, what? This never happened. Where are they? And I didn't find them. And I realized that I had probably misplaced or lost them on my walk. But when you go on a 20-minute, half-hour walk, or even 1 hour sometime, I mean, where would they be, right? Where do you start looking? So I just said, okay, Krishna, I'm going to go out on the trail, and if you want me, then I would really appreciate if I could get my counter beads back. So I went on my walk, and I was almost done with my walk, and I had already given up. And I realized that don't have any expectations, but it's really in your hands. And just as I was thinking like that, kind of like helplessly, I looked, and besides the path, in the grass, I saw the beads were lying there, just on the lawn, besides the path. And so Krishna always comes through. He always shows us that he's there for us, he cares for us, and he hears our prayers and he responds to them. So thank you all for being who you are and doing what you do to create the team spirit and to keep it alive, strong. And sharing means caring. So by sharing our ideas, our struggles, and by fortifying our vision and our dedication, we can build strong teams and friendships in Krishna consciousness. And I'm convinced that something very beautiful will come out of it, just like in the Govardhan Leela. So thank you for your participation. I wish you happy Govardhan Puja, happy Kartik, and looking forward to see all of you sometime soon. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you, everybody. And maybe next Sunday, you'll still be here. If you have time, you could give another talk, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be excited.
Okay, great. We'll select a topic and we'll see everybody next week. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.